he goes on to tell a little joke about how his father would always come on an inspection of the small chedorim, of the cheder where they were learning. And of course, at that time he was learning Tanya. And they were afraid that his father would come in and see that he's learning Tanya. So Rabbi Soloveitchik says that the Chabad Melamed stationed watchmen to spot when Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik is walking in that direction. They switched from Tanya back to Gemara. And then one day they were caught. But he concludes by saying this in a verbatim. My father and grandfather he's speaking about Reb Chaim Brisker, may have been angry, but I am in debt to my Melamed. His teachings broadened my horizons in Judaism. The Melamed inspired me with his descriptions of the kingship of God, of the Svirot, or emanations from the divine presence. The Melamed had studied in the yeshiva in Lubavitch, and his method of speech uplifted and transformed me. At the time, I was too young to truly comprehend many of his teachings. Only later did I understand and appreciate the lessons he taught me in their full depth. He taught me how to pray with emotion and ecstasy, gave me an appreciation for the high holy prayers. I think of him very often during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And that was written by the Rav, who, in my opinion, there's a Balatanya and there's a Balatalmud. The Rav owned the blot. Anybody who heard Rabbi Yoshe knows that he owned the blot Gemara. And this is what he said about what Hasidus, particularly Chabad, how much he was in debt for that few years that he spent under the tutelage of a Chabad Rebbe. Let me make 2-3 comments regarding his teachings, and you will see Chabad in his teachings. You see the influence. Now I told you what he said about the Chabad. Now you have to look at his Torah, and you see if his Torah reflects that. So I'd like to, first let me tell you, before I tell you his Torah, I'll tell you a little story. I hope it's a Hasidic, it's my story, it happened to me, but it has Hasidic connotations. When I first went into the Rabbonis, so it was in Vancouver, British Columbia, make a long story short, you know the Malacha, I don't have to tell anybody, Chabad, you have to relate to young people. If you don't have any young people, you don't have any future. So it was an elderly shul in Vancouver, British Columbia. We took care of the young kids. And some of the young kids started to become frum. That time there was no Chabad. Now there's a big Chabad. There's Chabad in Vancouver. That time there was no Chabad, 1962. So what happened was that some of these kids started wearing their tzitzis outside. And one of the kids, who was a Baal Tshuva, told me, I was invited to speak to the Jewish community in Calgary. Told me, so this young kid that we had had his tzitzis out, he told me, don't go there, Rabbi. And I said, why shouldn't I go? They invited me to speak. And he said, I'm telling you, my whole family lives there, and you're going to get from them a mishaberach. It's not worth, they're going to embarrass you in public. I would not accept the invitation. I go to Calgary. It was in January. It was freezing, 40 below zero. And it's in the Jewish Community Center building. And there's an oil of about 200 people. And the first thing I notice is that Calgary is different than any other community in the winter. People are not ashamed. They come into an auditorium and they're bundled up, and sitting there is nothing but a group of fur coats. It's jammed with fur coats. And so I finish my remarks, and 2 women sitting in the front row, they get up and they say, Rabbi, one says, her name, I'll give you her name, not her second name because she's still alive. Her name is Lil, and she's Lily, but the family called her Lil. She says to me, Rabbi, you are a disgrace. I guessed. I said, really? I just want you to know, people here don't know who you are. but I know from my family what you've done to my nephew. I want to tell you it's an absolute disgrace. I said, why is that? Because in this day and age, the only thing you taught my nephew that is important for Judaism is to wear laundry strings outside. And the kid runs around with his laundry strings. It's a disgrace when he goes to public school and wherever else he's going. And the other one gets up and says, Lil, and what about the fact that all that matters is how they kill a cow? That's all that has to do. These Orthodox Jews, that's all they're interested in, is the laundry strings and how to kill a cow. So I said to him, well, in the Jewish tradition, we have a long-standing tradition that sometimes when somebody asks a difficult question, we have to answer it by asking a question of our own. So if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a question. And my question is like this. I was thinking to myself, this is the first time in my life I saw people that come in and they're all bedecked with fur. I said to myself, why are they wearing fur? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I said to myself, you must be stupid. What kind of question is that? A dumb question. Why are they wearing fur? This is Calgary, Alberta. And in Calgary, Alberta, everybody's freezing. That's why you're wearing fur. So I said, that's no good. Maybe that's what the Gemara says. But Tosfos will say, that's no good at all. Because the point is, if you're really wearing the fur because it's cold, so Lil, why didn't you take your mink coat and put it on the inside where the fur could really hit your skin and make a difference? The answer is, you don't want to put the fur in the inside. The reason you don't want to put the fur in the inside is because you're here to say, look at a lovely husband I have. He spent a fortune on me. He bought me a mink coat, and here's my fur. If I'd have my fur on the inside, somebody might not see that. So that's why you all wear your fur on the outside rather than on the inside. So I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. Why do you attack people who wear their strings, their laundry strings on the outside because they're proud of their heritage? Like you're proud of your husband. But I'm willing to make you a deal. Monty Hall, Let's Make a Deal, is a Canadian show. And the deal I'll make you this evening, Lil, is if you stand up and tell these 200 people that you're going home and putting your mink on the inside, I'm taking the plane right back to Vancouver. I'm getting a hold of those young kids and I'm forcing them to take those laundry strings and put them also on the inside. Do we have a deal, Lil?